Reverend Dr. Michelle Morris joins us today to discuss affordable housing on church property.
That and an update on the war in Iran next here on The Undercurrent. Good morning. Good morning, morning.
Good morning, Uncle Warren. We were hanging out with our friend Willie Bragg last night for his birthday show.
Yeah, Willie, the last of the 69 babies this year. I mean, I know there's more, but
The only ones that matter. The only ones that matter are right
I
here.
know it's like January, February, March. Boom, boom, boom.
And I like it that Willie is, I'm February 5th and Willie is March 5th.
Yeah, I'm the 15th of January, right smack dab in the middle of a cold, dead winter. That's a good time to hatch a kid. But that's what my parents did. Those sons of guns, those
crazy kids.
Yeah, you talk about the summer of love. That was the winter of our discontent.
It absolutely was.
They're like, or that's like they got in an argument, they made up, and then 9 months later, I came along and like, damn it, I forgot about that. Even though she's like that big. Anyway, how's everybody doing? How are you doing?
I am doing just awesome. We had a crazy storm here this morning. I was in here. This place was rattling. It was shaking. It was something else.
Yeah, we had a little rain the other night. It may have been a part of that stuff. This weather during the winter has just been bonkers. The Northeast just getting hammered. Yeah. Parts of the South getting hammered with those ice storms and tornadoes too. There was some of that like a few weeks before that too, like around Indianapolis, just crazy apocalypse stuff you might see during the summertime, but now it's like, nah, this winter sports too. Here we go. And it's just, it's crazy.
Speaking of apocalypses, we're gonna be talking about that today.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, so we got a lot today. A lot of fun stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, later we're gonna have Dr. Reverend is it Reverend Doctor? Is that how you say it?
The Reverend Dr. Michelle Morris. She's going to be talking about we're going to be talking about gentrification and how that has impacted her and people in the community down here in Bentonville, but also about what her church is doing about it.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that should be a good conversation. First, let's get to the sad news as always.
It's this waking up in the morning to last month I woke up, I wake up and I find out that we've kidnapped the leader of Venezuela and his wife. You notice we never hear anything about right now. And then I wake up to find out that we've joined Israel in bombing Iran.
Yeah, I think what we told you last week, either on this show or one of the other shows, that the Democrats were supposed to what's his name, Massey from the Republican side, we're going to do the War Powers Act. Check it out. It's like, hey, before we go to war, but the narrator said they went to war anyway. So let's at least get you up to date on what's going on. So this is what we know on day 5. This all started Saturday morning on the last month of February, the last day of February there. In the morning, U.S. and Israel attacked Iran, and of course, Iran responded. The U.S. and Israel have continued to carry out strikes in Iran, bombing government, military, and civilian infrastructure as the conflict spreads to Lebanon, where Israel has been carrying out an intense bombardment there too, with Hezbollah taking shots at Tel Aviv as well. A fire broke out near the consulate in Dubai on Tuesday as Iranian retaliatory strikes continued in the Gulf, escalating tensions in the Middle East.
Sorry about that.
Iran has launched hundreds of missiles and drones as it expanded its attacks to energy infrastructure and diplomatic compounds. The conflict, which entered its fifth day today, has also sparked political debate here in the U.S., with the opposition Democrats questioning Trump's decision to attack Iran. I know, good question. And it seems like the reasoning for it kind of it morphs from one thing to another, depending on who asks the questions, I guess. But so right now in Iran, targeted locations, joint Israel-U.S. strikes have targeted western Tehran, with video footage showing thick plumes of smoke over the city. Nuclear facilities, the Natanz nuclear facility was struck during the military operations. Through India, Iranian media reports that no radioactive leakage has been recorded. According to U.S. Admiral Brad Cooper, Iran has launched more than 500 ballistic missiles and 2,000 drones in retaliation. These attacks have hit the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia and struck near the U.S. consulate in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. So everybody gets a taste. Everybody got a base in the Middle East surrounding around. Guess what? You're probably going to get a missile. A lot of these already have. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed that Israeli pilots are flying over Iran and Tehran, specifically stating that Israel will continue to strike the country with force. Trump has basically mirrored that sentiment as well. After 4 days of fighting, Iran's Foundation of Martyrs and Veterans Affairs reported that 1,045 people have been killed in the U.S.-Israeli attacks. So, yeah, basically all over here's Iran.
Yeah.
Here. You got all these attacks here so far. Yeah, so right now that's what's going on in Iran. They're just going to keep going. In the Gulf nations and Turkey, like I said, there's other players in this game, if you want to call it a game. Regional security and infrastructure threats. So Iran has launched strikes on energy infrastructure across the Gulf and warned that it will target all economic centers in the region if U.S.-Israeli attacks continue. I know a lot of Iran was attacking a lot of hotels and apartment complexes because the troops that were on the bases didn't want to be on the bases, so they went back to their off-base homes, and Iran, of course, knew about that and targeted them as well. So when you hear about like the hotels, like, why would they do hotels? As if that's probably the reason that was their reasoning for doing that. So I'm not my opinion. I'm just telling you what they say.
Yeah.
Qatari air defense systems intercepted projectiles in the skies over Doha, causing loud bangs. Saudi Arabia, 2 drones struck the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh, which caused a limited fire and minor damage. Oman citing ongoing activity. The British Maritime Security Tracker, UK MTO, reported that a vessel was hit by an unknown projectile. You get a lot of this stuff too, right? Because they don't want it. Neither side wants to play their hand. They don't want to tell you the actual numbers out of for strategy or for morale, that kind of thing. So we have to take a lot of these numbers with a grain of salt until we get some more, accurate numbers later. China's foreign minister Wang Yi told his Saudi Arabia and UAE counterparts that Beijing will send a special envoy to the Middle East for mediation purposes. So they're not bringing weapons. Apparently, they're bringing peace talkers. Turkey, an Iranian ballistic missile that was fired from Iran and heading into Turkish territory, was downed by NATO air defense systems. That's according to the Turkish Ministry of National Defense. And that's basically it. Attacks in Israel. The Lebanese armed group Hezbollah claimed to have fired rockets at Israeli forces in the northern town of Metula. So you're getting Israel's getting attacked with missiles from Iran and from Hezbollah, and so Israel has retaliated in Lebanon Uh, Here in the U.S., Trump stated that the big scale hitting goes now. Yeah, because he doesn't have to go, and none of his children do. Promising that Iran is in for a lot of hurt. They've already, both him and Hegseth over the weekend have both said that there's going to be more American casualties. But of course, he said he's told the U.S. was winning the war and confirmed that the military sank an Iranian warship off the coast. All this is in here, but that's basically the gist of it now. The death toll is over 1,000 in Iran alone. Of course, there was a school there that was destroyed. With I believe the death toll now, according to the Iranians there, who said that about 165 kids died from that. Yeah, and this is one of those, like, who started this, right? Was this just did Israel start it, and then we had to jump in because Israel started it? I mean, do you got any recollection?
And you've got our allies scratching their heads saying, we were a little surprised here. But now they're being dragged into this. And one thing that people have been saying all along is, first of all, if there's boots on the ground, which has not happened yet, although there is speculation that may have to happen, and that's probably not going to go well. The other thing that people have been saying is, regardless, Iran has the power to make this very painful. Even if they lose, even if they capitulate or have to capitulate, they have the capacity to make this extremely painful. And we're seeing that already with these strikes. And now what's going to happen to international trade with the Strait of Hormuz. And I mean, they have the capacity to make this extremely painful, regardless of who wins or loses or however you define those concepts here. This is nasty, and it's going to be nasty. It's going to stay nasty and get nasty.
I mean, yeah, and regardless of your opinion on whether you like or dislike Iran's been preparing for this for many years. And they have layers upon layers of hierarchy for the positions in government. So when you do take out the supreme leader, it's like the Hydra. You just cut off one head. There's still, 5 more, 6 more, 7, however there is, because that's the way they know that the West has always been gunning for them. Maybe not literally, but now it is. Now it's literally, and they knew this day was coming sooner or later, especially knowing how volatile Trump's been anyway. And of course, the people around him too, that are not exactly
stable or moral.
Yeah. I was trying to be nice.
Yeah. Oh, Uncle Warren, I think we're past being nice.
Yeah, I know.
I think we really are past being nice at this juncture.
Yeah, they're warmongers, and if and I'm tired of sugarcoating it myself. It's like, look, there is no common good for this that's going on. They attacked him for various reasons, but it wasn't for our security. That's for sure, because Iran was never a threat. Even since '79, when when the Ayatollah took over, then even then it was like they didn't have a threat. They were still trying to figure out their own stuff going on over there, and it became a harsh rule, which I hope one day the people are able to not to have a revolution, but to do it in a way to where it naturally evolves to where they want it to be, instead of it just being this thing that's all of a sudden there's change, because a lot of people are not used to that. If you can ease them into it. If we hadn't been tyrants this whole time and done embargoes and stuff like that, maybe we could have been an influence on Iran too. But that's just my opinion. I could be.
Well, we shouldn't have been. This is what happens when you have a culture, you have a nation that's been interfered with. And
Exactly.
this has been going on for a very long time, that they've been interfered with, and that is resented. And yeah, I have a whole lot of concerns about any kind of a theocratic government. I
Mm-hmm.
think many of us do. I mean, just, we don't want to see a theocratic government. It doesn't usually work terribly well. What I will say is Iran, a very ancient culture, magnificent, magnificent ancient culture, a very good people, um, who value who value intellectual life and the arts, and they're remarkable human beings, and they are trying, they're struggling to manage their own destiny as a country and as a people, and meddling at which, and then they've endured ridiculous meddling for a very long time, and this is what happens. And I'm also going to point out a couple of other things I want to mention. Those little girls who were killed in that strike. I'm going to offer my opinion here. This is strictly Auntie Laney's opinion, but I actually think that was attacking that school was intentional. I think it was a psyop. And I believe because almost immediately after those reports came out, people started coming back and saying it's all fake. The school was never hit. No children were ever killed. And that sets people arguing with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And people are saying, nope, didn't happen. All those photos, those are AI. Everybody's lying. And that sets the people of the United States against each other. And it happened almost immediately. I was paying very close attention to it that morning. I had BBC on my TV all day, but I was checking social media. I was listening to the radio, and I knew what was happening. You actually had people saying things like, well, it couldn't have been a girls' school. They didn't allow girls to go to school. No. Iran has very open education for women. That's Afghanistan. That doesn't allow that. Iranian, in fact, as I understand, there are more, it's like in the United States, there are more women in university than there are men. They were saying things like, well, it was at 3 a.m. On a Saturday morning. Well, on Saturday or something like that. First of all, they don't understand there was a time difference. And number two, yes, they do have school on Saturday there. It's a different culture.
Yeah.
They have different days of the week, but it got into people's heads. Oh, well, none of this is making any sense, and you're ignorant, and this is all fake. And so there was a full-on psyop, and they were perfectly willing to kill a bunch of little girls in that process.
Yeah, I heard one story that there was a missile battery nearby the school, and that a missile went up and it fell down on the school. Like they bombed their own school. I heard that one too. And it was, and I saw who the reporters were, or who the YouTube people were, and I look at their little background, see where they're from. A lot of them said Fox News. I'm like, I don't need this bullshit, right?
No.
You know, it to me, and this is my opinion, it makes perfect sense that it was Israel that hit that school, because they've done it in Gaza numerous times without shame. They say, Hamas is there. Hamas is there. In this case, they were saying, oh, there was like some sort of military or some sort of stuff there that they were going after, that they weren't trying to hit the school, and it dead on hit the school. It was ridiculous.
This is, I mean, I saw the burial services and the little girls in their little shrouds with the flowers on them. And all right, that's it. No future for those little girls.
No.
And it's a very useful psyop to keep the American people arguing with each other.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And also too, nobody wants to be blamed for bombing a school that killed little girls. I mean, like, if you look at it from a political standpoint, nobody wants to be that. And that's why they're desperately saying, well, this wasn't us, this wasn't us, this wasn't us. So,
Well, we had no problem. There are white supremacists in the U.S. who had no problem bombing a church and killing little girls.
yeah,
So children, child is a category. It's like women. It's a category. Oh, we're going to protect children. We're going to protect women. But suddenly, when it's serving a political purpose, they're just fodder.
yeah, yeah, you're that's why anybody who does like the virtue signaling stuff, I'm always just like, you just need to stop this division, this purposeful division, because Gen X is getting up there now to where we're starting to take more of the leadership roles, right?
Yeah.
in society, and the Gen Gen Zers, right? The Gen Zers are always making these videos like, all right, cool, when you guys going to take over? Right? But it's like, we're like, look, dude, we already know what's happening. We know everything's bullshit. We've known everything's bullshit behind the scenes. Yes, you need to put your positive focus on these areas here where it matters, like people, family, stuff like that, things you care about. But this other stuff is just meant to just distract you, just take you out of focusing on the fact that they blew up a school full of kids, either on purpose or not. And if it was an accident, if it was an oopsie, that's even just as bad. That makes you look like an incompetent military that don't know how to aim your shit, right? So damned if you do, damned if you don't.
And absolutely. You need to also remember the move bombing. People had no problem bombing a building with families. It was Philadelphia. Philadelphia. Now, the funny thing is, I became aware of that. I was at somebody's home, and they had all of these propaganda posters. I believe they were from the Soviet Union. And there were these propaganda posters, and one of them depicted the move bombing to show, just exactly the kind of level of cruelty that Americans are capable of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, Tulsa, you look at what happened in Tulsa in the 1920s.
Yep.
People just trying to be, the American dream, just trying to build, something for themselves. And here comes, trucks full of guys with guns and bombs. And I think, didn't they have had some like plane overhead that was like dropping stuff on Tulsa too? It was like a war zone.
It would be worth it to look into it. I don't remember that exactly, but I do know that what happened there was horrendous. And then, of course, we've seen, far more sly ways of disempowering people as well. And we're going to be talking. We're going to have some more stories about this kind of thing later on. In fact, we've got a story that's kind of, been under the radar, but I want to share it about immigrants being able to get SBA loans. So we're going to be talking about that later. But I do see our guest has arrived. Yes, there she is.
Hello.
Hi, Michelle.
How are you?
It's so good to see you. Thank you for joining us and taking time out of your day. Folks, I wanted to introduce you. This is the Reverend Dr. Michelle Morris. She is with First United Methodist Church here in Bentonville, where my family attends. I know Michelle. We've hung out together a few times. And if you want to go check our show notes, which you will find you can find that link to that underneath our video stream here on YouTube. I'm also sending this out to the comments. You can scroll down. She's got a really interesting story, which I was reading about, and I knew I wanted to bring her on this show to talk about the issue of housing and affordable housing, and a way of thinking about affordable housing that allows houses of worship. I don't want to just say churches, but houses of worship anywhere, something that they might be able to do to help with that in community. But we've got an unusual situation down here in Bentonville. I don't know if folks realize, but Bentonville is Walmart HQ. And it has absolutely developed. My family, we've had some serial migration down here. And when my family got down here, it was really a very tiny little town, not much going on, and it has exploded with cultural activities and building and business, and that's been very exciting. But as it often happens, it raises the cost of housing. So, Michelle, would you mind telling us your story and how you've
Sure.
experienced this?
Yes. So I'm a United Methodist pastor, and United Methodist pastors are appointed by the bishop. And so we move when we're told to move, and we move where we're told to move. And churches have two possibilities for providing housing for their pastors. One is to provide a parsonage, and that used to be the standard. But sometime in the 1990s, 2000s, there was a move away from parsonages, in part because it was expensive for churches to maintain. Parsonages have to meet certain accessibility standards, make sure that anyone can be appointed and serve there. And then we also found that pastors who were lifelong career pastors were retiring with zero credit. Because they had always lived in a house that was provided for them. Their utilities were set up by the church, that sort of thing. So in the 90s, 2000s, when there was a robust real estate market, and especially in towns like Bentonville, where you could turn over a house pretty quickly, churches went away from providing parsonages and started providing a housing allowance. Okay. And that was to allow the pastor to, if they wanted to get a house, they could get a house and then start building their credit and building some equity and things like that. If they wanted to, live in an apartment, they could do that, whatever fit for them. And that was great until about, kind of coming out of the pandemic when, especially in Bentonville, things went really crazy. The other piece was, of course, it's not just Bentonville that's experiencing this. This is a nationwide problem with housing affordability. And I am paid very well by this church, but I am a single person. I do not have a secondary income. And Bentonville is now at the point where if you do not make $300,000 a year in a household income, you really can't afford a house in this town. And again, the church pays me very well, but not quite to that level, nor should they, really. Yeah. I mean, that would be excessive.
You're not Joel Osteen, in other words.
Exactly. And even if I was, I really want them to pour resources into the community. And for instance, we have a food pantry that has more than doubled in need in the past.
It's an amazing food pantry. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So I would rather it go to things like that. However, I do have to live somewhere. I was renting a house when I first got to town, and they realized that they could sell it. It was a 1,100 square foot house built in the 1960s, and they sold it for almost $700,000. And so then I had 60 days to vacate. I was applying all over town, and I was not applying, and there are very few low income or subsidized housing opportunities in this part of the world, but I wouldn't have applied for that. My income wouldn't have done it. But even those kind of like in between, the few in betweens that were there, I didn't apply there either, because there are people that are making $70,000 a year. They need to have those options. So I was applying within my income range, and I had a 6-figure salary and a credit score in the 800s. And I'm a pastor, and I was no one's first choice for housing. I finally had to call and beg a builder and play the pastor card, to be quite honest. Just say, I'm not going to have wild parties. Come on now.
No keggers.
Right.
No keggers.
And so, and I got into a townhouse that was unfinished. They had a completely unfinished room. There wasn't, I had a finished bedroom and everything, but one of the rooms was unfinished. I mean, by no flooring on the floors, no drywall, exposed installation. The windows weren't sealed, and they could get an occupancy letter because housing is so tight in this part of the world. And rent kept going up. And then they started requiring a full inspection every 3 months, including going through cabinets and closets and all of that. And I have some trauma related to housing. And sort of that became, I certainly felt surveilled all the time.
Sure, absolutely.
And I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
But I can't afford a house in Bentonville either. So I live in an RV full time. And that was my solution, which I love. I absolutely love living in RV. It's great. I actually have a parishioner who has an RV hookup on her land. She has a big farm, and so I rent space from her, and it's wonderful. She's a widow, and I'm a single person, so we kind of watch out for each other, and that's great. And then I can take my house on vacation,
Sure.
So there's some real pluses.
When you go to general conference, and then
yeah, exactly. But that was a solution that was open to me. It's not a solution that's open to everyone.
Yeah.
And we are really at crisis point in Bentonville. So we do have some property on our church land that is undeveloped that we are looking at what we could do with that. One of the things, we have some church needs we need to address.
Okay.
But one of the things we are also looking at is primarily we're looking at mixed income housing so that you have some higher level housing that can help pay for the whole rest of the space. We are lucky to live in downtown Bentonville, which is thriving and, multi-million-dollar houses all around us. But then also have missing middle income, which is kind of the where I fall into, and where teachers fall into, police officers fall into, public servants of all kinds fall into that missing middle. And then also looking at some affordable housing for seniors or for single parents or, that sort of thing. So, but it's very, very early in the conversations. I need my church to have a chance to sound off on what they think our priorities should be before we make a move on that. But we were part of a program. Sorry, I keep talking. We were
please. Yeah.
Urban Land.
We're holding our questions for you. You talk.
Okay. Through the Urban Land Institute called Faithful Foundations, and it's a program where they trained church leaders on how to do land development. Like, what are the questions you need to ask? What connections do you need to make? So we did send a team to be part of that. And it was a very helpful program because, I was not trained on land development in seminary.
No, I went to seminary too, and I don't remember that either. But
no, they skipped right over that. There's so much they skip over in seminary. How to unclog a toilet and how to do land development. It's just not covered. But anyway, so we were part of that program, and one of the things that we learned as part of that is when we started out, they knew that there was 5 square miles in Northwest Arkansas of undeveloped land owned by religious organizations. I think by the time we were finishing up that program, they had discovered that it was closer to 7.5 square miles, and they were discovering more and more and more. So there's a tremendous amount of undeveloped land that's owned by religious entities, and really could be a way to help address the needs of our community. So anyway, we're part of that conversation now.
I think that's great. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, would then the church, if this comes to fruition and the affordable housing project goes through, would the church continue to own that land and then manage it as a landlord, or how would that work?
There's a lot of different models out there, and that's another thing that we will look at as we're having conversation about what our priorities need to be. My own personal opinion is that we should never let go of ownership of the land, because you never get land back. But you can have a developer come in where it's basically like a land lease, right? Okay. They lease the land and then they do the development on top of it, and we could set some parameters around that. We could do a kind of mixed model where we do the building, but we have, there are nonprofits that manage, like building projects like this. So they would take over like the maintenance and the, finding the people to rent and doing all of the paperwork and that sort of thing. Or we could completely take it on And then in that case, we would need to hire staff that was specifically managing that whole area. That I'll be quite honest, among the conversations that I've had, that's the one that people tend to be least interested in. But we have yet to kind of see what will unfold as we do this. Like I said, it's very, very preliminary conversations, but right now that means that all of the possibilities are on the table. So, yeah.
What kind of housing would you do you envision, like, realistically, and what kind of housing would you really like if you could get it done?
It's an interesting question. we have a neighborhood to match, and as I mentioned, we have multi-million-dollar houses all around us. But we also have tremendous amount of need. So the tremendous amount of need would imply something like a big complex, right? A 3 or 4 story complex out there. The neighborhood implies something like you can build townhouses. They're quadplexes that look like very large homes, right? And we could do like 3 designs on Central Avenue is our main like that kind of thing would match our Central Avenue facing side of our church. So you could actually have 4 rental units in what looks like a really large house. So that would match our community as far as, sort of the vibe of that side. The Second Street side is very different. We're across from an elementary school. We're right at the point where retail starts to come in right there. And so Second Street has a completely different vibe to it, and we're boxed in between those 2 streets. And so honestly, I don't know. I know for me, especially as I'm having these conversations with my congregation, I don't want to get too tied into an idea, because I find that people can be very creative. And from my religious perspective, when you invite the Holy Spirit in, that the Holy Spirit can be even more creative. And then I've met all of these architects who are extraordinarily creative. And so I just think that there's a lot of possibilities out there, and I don't want to tie too much into one idea before we've explored what could be. So I kind of want to leave us open on that, in that space. So
it'd be interesting the kinds of ideas you come up with. I remember in Brooklyn, probably about 10 years ago, in Brooklyn, New York. This wasn't for housing, but this was more like a small business thing. They had taken these containers, right, from the container trucks, and converted them. Like they had little shops, they had radio stations, stuff like that. And the point of that is like the ingenuity of people to do with as much as you can with as little as you can to help as many people as possible. It's fun going through those ideas of how you can do that for people like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And there's really a lot of creativity. One of the churches that was in the program with us is developing, they have a good chunk of land in Fayetteville, which college town. And so they're looking at developing a lot of different kind of townhouse spaces, but also integrating green space and walking space in there, and doing some hydroponic gardening alongside as well, so that the community generates food. And their church has a food pantry like ours does. So their hope is, to, develop those kinds of skills and teach the community how to do hydroponic gardening, and then have the food available to distribute to the food pantry. There's a community from the Pacific Islands in Springdale that is looking at, they frequently have, just extended families all living together. Okay. And sometimes because they are a an immigrant population, they get into they find it's hard to find housing. And
Right.
so kind of some transitional housing as people come in, and that they can provide a landing place while for multi-generational families while they figure out where they're going to actually be able to move into. So there's just a lot of different things. There's one church that was only looking at helping single mothers.
Okay.
Well, actually, it was single mothers and elderly widow women, so that they had a community together. The elderly women could be sort of like grandmother figures.
Yeah.
And the for the mothers with children, right? And the younger families could also help out the older women. So it's just, there's a lot of possibility, and that kind of thing is very exciting and very cool to see all of that happening.
It is, the great evangelist Amy Semple McPherson, when she began her career, she was a very famous Pentecostal minister who actually revolutionized getting religious services on radio, but that's a whole other topic. But one of her early ministries was to partner single mothers with older single women or widows. And so the young women could go out and get a job and support themselves and get career experiences, while the widow or the older woman would take care of the child, provide child care. And that was a partnership that actually worked very well. The other thing I wanted to mention, Michelle was talking about the situation where the church is. Unless you've actually been down to Bentonville Square, we call it Bentonville Square because it's the locus of the community, to know just how well placed the church is. I live 2 blocks away. I live right over there by myself, and I was very fortunate that I had an inn on a house that is owned by a local landlord. And the houses around me, I know for $1.5 million. And I was very fortunate to get an affordable rent in an affordable place. But one of the wonderful things about this area is you're steps away from the grocery store. You're steps away from the bank. You're steps away from community workplaces like the Ledger. You're steps away from the park and green areas, so you can actually move around. There's trails. There are restaurants. There are shops. There are near Bentonville City Hall and the library. Everything is right there within steps away. So not only, and sometimes I see these housing developments, they put them way out. They want to hide these folks away. And they're not really part of the community. They're marginalized if if they don't have public transportation. The public transportation down here is shaky. These folks are really isolated, and this church is right where everything is happening. And for folks who need affordable housing, not having to spend 2 hours a day or paying for Ubers or whatnot would make an enormous difference in their lives.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's an organization that's actually, they were gifted property downtown years and years and years ago that specifically works with women who are fleeing abusive situations or fleeing trafficking, having been trafficked, and they have children. You have to have children to go there. And they get 2 years of living in these apartments. They're each given a little apartment, and they get 2 years to kind of get their feet underneath them. They could do therapy. They can enroll in school. They for work. They get all kinds of life skills training while they're there. And then at the end of the 2 years, they're ready to go out.
Yeah.
And they cannot. They've lived downtown for 2 years, and there's nowhere for them to go. And so it means uprooting their children, taking them to new schools. Potentially, like, most of these women don't have cars. Now they have to find a car to get to a job that they've been able to walk to up to this point. So it basically, while it gives them 2 years to breathe, the reality is then that they almost have to reinvent themselves again when they leave, because there's no pathway into like being able to rent somewhere downtown, so we could even be a sort of funnel for that organization and help them then to build up some more credit and save some and then be able to get out on their own a little bit better. So it'd be like a next step in their journey, kind of thing. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
It says here that you've spent the last 6 months in the training program called Faithful Foundation, designed to help churches develop affordable housing proposals. And it says 5 other churches across Northwest Arkansas participated too, which was organized by Urban Land Institute, Northwest Arkansas. So, I mean, what's the next step for your church and for those 5 other churches? What do you guys plan on doing next?
Yes. So for me, I was always honest with the folks at ULI that what this would do was give us the information and the training that we needed to even see if this was a possibility for us. So we always went in with the expression that our timeline was going to move slower than most folks. In addition, we are part of a denomination, and I'm sure most of you are unfamiliar with the fact that with the United Methodist churches, the local church does not actually own our land. It is held in trust by the denomination, really. And so anything big that happens on our land, I mean, we can approve people to come have meetings here. We can approve, changing the paint on the walls, that kind of thing. But anything big, a big building project, has to go through multiple levels of denominational clearance. But like I said, this was a small team of us that went through this. We're spending the next year in conversation with the congregation. Because if this is not the will of the congregation, there's no sense in pursuing.
Right.
Yeah.
we know you don't want it, but we're going to do it anyway. Yeah, that's right.
And I think we've made it clear I'm not independently wealthy, so I can't just make something happen. And so, but anyway, so we'll spend a year in conversation with folks and really giving people a chance to voice what they're and we need to forward think for the church as well as forward think for our community. So those kind of need to go hand in hand in those conversations. The other churches were further along. They came into this with full intention of, they kind of had ideas and plans and were able, when they sat down, I mean, it was really wonderful. You got to sit down with architects, you got to sit down with developers, you got to do all that. When they would sit down, they'd be like, this is the vision that we have. And they came out with plans and all of that. And the last meeting that we had was our pitch. And there were developers there were city officials, all kinds of different investors, nonprofit organizations, things like that. And so all of the rest of the churches made a pitch. And so they have and those were kind of some of the ideas that I talked about. The Marshallese community that's trying to make transitional housing on their property. The community that's trying to build the single women, elderly women community. There is one church that it looks like they had big dreams, but they've run into some big hurdles. So they at least are probably not going to get theirs done for a while. And then there's another church that I think they could move on theirs quickly because theirs was specifically for like the public servant end. They're going to build a house at a time, and the people actually get a loan for the house. And they own the house, but the requirement of owning the house is that they have to sell it back to the church. Okay. At a certain percentage increase, right? Like, I think I think the increase depends on the number of years they spend in the house up to a certain point, but that allows them to have a house that they own and they build their equity and they build all of that. And then they have this guaranteed sale back, right? Because they sell it to the church, who then turns around and sells it to someone else, right? And so the church maintains the ownership. The church owns the land and sort of has kind of the built-in, like they know they're going to be buying these houses back, but they're building a new house when they sell the house, they build the next house, right? and then sell that house and then can build the next house. So they're sort of inch by inch funding what will probably be 12 to 15 houses on their property that people will own and will be able to move out of and maybe move into another home at some point. So really creative, cool idea on that end.
It really is. I love the creativity, and I love the fact that, not every community is the same. Not, different communities are structured differently. There are different, and then also the cultural differences that you pointed out.
Right.
I'm from Chicago, where we do have a lot of immigrant families, and some of those immigrant families practice, the genders are separated, and what they will often do, we have a lot of what we call 2 flats or 3 flats, which are basically relatively large apartments, but they're stacked up on top of each other. And they may even have a common area where you can go up and down the stairs in the back that's enclosed, something like that. But you see a lot of Muslim families, for example, who live in these homes. So the ladies can have their space, the men will have their space, and that sort of thing. They can separate things a little bit more, giving everybody privacy, but the family is together and living together and supporting each other. So, that's one consideration. Some people may need ranch style housing. They may have people with disabilities, oftentimes will want something that's all on one level. And every community is different. And so I'm fascinated by everybody's openness, but also the possibilities that exist for this kind of project. As we wind up, what would you tell faith leaders or people who are involved in faith communities who are thinking, hey, we've got this parcel, and some of these churches, the enrollment has gone down, or they don't have huge congregations anymore. We have this parking lot that nobody is using, or something like that. What would you tell them to do?
I would encourage them to think. A lot of times, especially when you're in trouble, you turn more and more inward, and I think that's exactly what kills us. Right? We are, they say the church is the only organization that exists for people who aren't part of the organization, right? That's one of the expressions out there. And so I would encourage them to do that. I will share, it's not necessarily related to affordable housing, but our church made a policy change. It wasn't really a change. We just finally started voicing it, that we would not charge nonprofits for the use of our building.
Okay.
And we have more than 20 nonprofits now that meet and use our space. And because we are downtown, we also have a parking lot that is used all the time, and is always full. And in fact, yesterday I was coming back to the church for a meeting, and I had to park 2 blocks away from my own church because there were so many people in our church building and so many people using downtown. And sometimes people have said, shouldn't we charge for our parking? Shouldn't we do that? And I'm like, no. This is a gift we have for the community, and we should give this gift to the community. And does it cost us? Yes, it does. But also what it does is show hospitality and warmth to so many people now. I mean, the number of people that come in our building in this community that feel warmly welcomed and received. And I mean, we have nonprofit leaders that start crying when we tell them they can meet in our building and there's no cost. And just to be able to provide a home like that, I would encourage people who are feeling desperate to start thinking about the home they can be with the property they currently have.
Okay.
And then also tell them that there are a lot of ways to make things happen on your property that don't actually cause you a lot of cost.
Okay.
And
that's good.
If you would start exploring what those possibilities are, and there's some folks out there that will try to take advantage, but there are legitimately nonprofits that will come in and build on your property, and you can maintain the ownership of the property, and they will build it, run it, and you get the benefit of providing the space to help the community, and a built-in neighborhood right next to your church. Right?
Well, that's
You
one way to
know,
get them to church. That's for sure. It's like, well, you're right
right.
next door. You have no excuse.
I mean, you're
Come
already
on over.
parked here, right?
You're already parked here. Right. Exactly.
So, we have coffee and donuts. Come on over. You know,
I'm there.
right, right. So I just encourage them to think about that. The other thing is there are some churches that are just the last little bit. There are some churches that are doing pretty well. Our church is doing pretty well. And what I'm having to tell my church is there's still a cliff coming. It's the once the boomers and the silents pass away, Gen X down are still as generous as boomers and above are, but we do not exclusively give to one organization anymore.
Right.
And so the church is being supported alongside the American Heart Association, alongside, the local nonprofit that's helping out women, abused women. Everybody's trying to get the same piece of pie there. And, and so also being creative about what you could do with your property means that you can also come up with other ways of generating income. And if you can generate income that also is a deep service to your community, that doesn't draw your nonprofit status into question. Because that's always a tax concern that people have. Yeah. And it helps you actually fulfill your mission. So,
gosh, yeah.
Do that. So
do unto others, all that, all that
exactly. Exactly. So I just encourage churches to start really thinking creatively about what's possible and what it could mean for us to be those kinds of entities in our community.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic too. We need solutions like that too, because there is a lot there, not a lot of places have like a lot of land or anything like that, but the ones that do, I think that's a heck of a good idea, especially if you're able to develop it, control it yourself, give the person the opportunity to buy it. But like you said, if they sit under the rules that, if you sell it, you're going to sell it back to the church. Right. Yeah. It's that way. You're not doing this like, what do they call it? Buying it low and selling high, and then, treating it like investments instead of the actual homes that are needed for people to live in like that. So that's a great alternative. And I wish you much success on that, and come back later when you guys get some ideas and, part 2, tell us how you're doing it.
I'd love to hear. Yeah, I'd love to do it. And thanks for the opportunity to share this story. I think it's important for people to be thinking about and talking about. So, yeah.
Well, these 19
so much,
people,
Michelle.
These 19 people that are watching, they're all on parole, so they get they're court ordered to watch the show. So
one of them was raised United Methodist. I saw in the comments there.
Yeah, there's always one of those. There's
but he's now in the
there he is.
There's our friend Willie Bragg.
Willie Bragg shining up the apple for the teacher. Yeah, we know what you're doing, Willie. You stop it. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on, and like I said, good luck to you.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle.
All right. That was awesome.
That was awesome. I was really looking forward to this, and we've been planning it since last fall. And it was just absolutely awesome to see her and have her on the show. It was fantastic. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more about what's going to be happening.
Yeah, I love it when people when good ideas come together with common sense like that. And she's the good thing about it too is she's not diving into one idea. Yeah, right. They're pondering, they're thinking through different choices that they have. And it's like every location is different. You can't do the same thing in every place, so you have to come up with your own plan and solution at your own place like that. So kudos to her.
And what she also pointed out, I mean, it's great to see that there's organizations that are doing that, are providing the information. They're not just rushing head in, because there's so many, there are good intentioned people out there, even good intentions organizations who think, oh, we see a problem here, we're going to dive in, and they make everything worse. And so that's not what's happening here. They're actually working with experts in the legal aspects, the contracting, aspects, all of that. And yeah, we're gonna thank you, Janina. We're gonna clip this. I'm gonna actually, after this shows up, I'm gonna clip it and we're gonna put it up as a longer segment than our usual shorts, because this is the kind of stuff that people need to hear about and learn about. And I'm hoping folks will get inspiration. And again, you don't have to be a Christian to do this. This is a this is something that any faith community can do. And actually, I would say any not-for-profit. I mean, if you've got a school, if you've, whatever, there are, or even if you have a for-profit, but you don't need the land as much anymore. Do you want to sell it to a developer, or do you want to transform it into something that serves a community? Here's the inspiration. This is the inspiration for that.
Yeah, and these don't even have to be like your forever homes. This is just trying to ease the burden of people who are just trying to find affordable housing. Like I hear the stories about one bedroom apartments, or not even that, studios going for like $1,000, $2,000 a month, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It's so you need that alternative like that, and these churches stepping up like that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
you love
awesome
to see stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
might as well get into our recurring tide here. All our stories we've been covering. Let me turn this off for a second. Sorry, folks. I don't want to hit. There we go.
And just want to let everybody know, we're doing, another storm is coming. You can maybe able to hear it out there.
Ooh, boom, 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 boom. You okay?
Yeah, so that's what's going on. No, I don't think we're having any incoming ballistics yet. But if you hear stuff or we get something crazy goes on here, now you know what's going on.
All right. You're getting them thunder boomers, as we used to call them down there. Those thunder boomers, and one's down south this time of year. That's no joke anyway.
No joke, whatsoever.
Where you're at, yeah. So so here we go, going into the recurring tide, and our first item up for bids is green card holders no longer eligible for SBA loans.
Yeah. Okay. And your Auntie Laney is always telling you folks to be listening to local radio. That's how I found out about this story. Something that's been very neatly buried, but we have public radio down here, and I got to hear about this story. I don't know. Do you want to read it, Uncle Warren, or do you want me to just explain what's going on? Or
I'll read a couple of paragraphs, and then you can go into it. So small businesses with immigrant or mixed status ownership will soon lose access to some of the most affordable financing available to them. Starting this month, lawful permit residents, commonly referred to as green card holders, will no longer be eligible for SBA 7A or 504 loans under a new U.S. Small Business Administration rule that requires 100% U.S. citizen or national ownership. So the change will materially reduce access to SBA financing for many small businesses that previously qualified. It's according to Jerry Gilpin, president and CEO of Community Bank and Trust. So what's going on with this? There's the new SBA loan ownership requirements now. You want to get into this?
Effectively, what's going on is, and I want to pull this back a little bit. America is, in the United States, it's very much a country of entrepreneurs. We respect entrepreneurship. That's our big thing. And for all of our various problems, including racism and xenophobia and all that, one thing that we've done, I think, very well with immigrants here is we encourage them to start businesses. That's how they build wealth. They become part of the community. They're not going to be marginalized and forced to stay on state benefits. They pull, they're able to bring themselves and their families up through entrepreneurship, and their businesses do wonderful things in our communities. You know this, Warren. Anybody who lives in a community where these folks will bring in wonderful restaurants, but they also they have all kinds of landscapers, contracting. Eventually they will move into the professions as well, and they can provide multilingual services. This is absolutely critical. But what's happening is that the SBA has quietly changed a policy that would allow people who were green card owners, and particularly if they are partnered with people who are citizens, to get certain types of loans. Some of these loans are loans that are issued by banks but are partially backed by the SBA. Some are for things like transportation and equipment, transportation, cars, trucks, but also for various types of equipment. What they're doing now is saying your business must be 100% owned by a U.S. citizen. So you might have a situation where somebody, they're legally here, they meet they have cousins here, they have family ties, they want to start a business together or grow their business together, and they are not going to be able to do that at this point. They're effectively kneecapping legal residents here in the United States from doing the one thing, well, one of many, but they're one thing that really, really helps immigrant populations thrive. And they're being kneecapped.
Yeah. And for why, I have no idea. Right. I mean,
we know why, Uncle Warren.
Well, I mean,
we know why.
We do, but I mean, it's going to become more blatant too as we go along. This says business owners who are in the process of applying for an SBA loan and expect to be affected by the eligibility change should reach out to their lender as soon as possible. So yeah, if you're listening to this and you have a green card, you talk to your lender post haste, because this stuff seems like it's moving quick. Ask whether there are steps you can take to move the application forward and whether they can provide an estimated timeline for the approval. For those who have not yet applied for an SBA loan, it's unlikely that you'll be able to submit an application and receive approval before the rule takes effect. In that case, you'll need to explore alternative financing options. So that's what is going to happen, is they're going to have to find these alternative financing options, and that's where your predatory lenders, they like to sweep in, and take advantage of people's desperation like that. So they have to be very aware of that.
Yeah. So here we are, and the only reason I knew about it was because I pay attention to media, and that we still have here in Arkansas, or Northwest Arkansas at least, a public radio station that can provide that kind of coverage. And it is a deep concern that they have chosen this time to reverse a policy that has worked well for the immigrant community. And here we are.
Well, Lainey, if you weren't scared of AI enough,
this one was not one that kind of did really trouble me, among other things.
So LLMs can unmask pseudonymous. Like that.
Yeah, I know. They make us feel stupid.
These sons of bitches. At the scale with surprising accuracy. So you trying to be pseudo, you're gonna have some hard times. I know how to say it. I just got lazy. Burner accounts on social media sites can increasingly be analyzed to identify the pseudonymous users who post them using AI in research that has far-reaching consequences for privacy on the internet. Researchers said the finding from a recently published research paper is based on results of experiments correlating specific individuals with accounts or posts across more than one social media platform. Yikes. The success rate was far greater than existing classical denonymization. What are these words?
I tell you.
They made that shit up.
You're speaking in tongues. You got some religion, you're speaking in tongues.
Denonymization. Bullshit words that relied on, we keep it real here at the TU. You know what I'm saying, dog? Yeah. So Deanopolis works that relied on humans assembling structured data sets suitable for algorithmic, I know that one, matching or manual work by skilled investigators. Recall, that is, how many users were successfully denopolized was I have 68%. I say that word. I refuse to now. Precision, meaning the rate of guesses that correctly identify the user, was up to 90%. So this is crazy, right? I know what you posted last year. The findings have the potential to upend pseudonymity, an imperfect but often a sufficient privacy measure used by many people to post queries and participate in sometimes sensitive public discussions while making it hard for others to positively identify the speakers. The ability to cheaply and quickly identify the people behind such obscured accounts opens them up to doxing, stalking, and the assembly of detailed marketing profiles, of course. Got to make that money. That track where speakers live, what they do for a living, and other personal information. This measure no longer this pseudonymity. You can't hide your lying eyes is basically what they're saying. You can't hide no more. AI's gonna find you and they're gonna get you and they're gonna put you out there. All your warts and all.
I mean, this is nothing new. People have always been able to use IP addresses. I mean, there's a lot of things that people can do to try and track somebody, but this is acceleration. It's been accelerated. And I don't know that there's much that can be said other than maybe people shouldn't be putting too much of their business out on the internet.
Yeah, that's right.
That's one real possibility. It is unfortunate that so many people feel that have the need, and I'm not saying they're feeling, they have the need to bring highly personal matters online because they can't get access to, say, real medical or legal advice or something like that. But that here we are. And what we're seeing here, this could be used in some very devastating ways. I mean, they were talking about, there's the data profiles. There could be legal matters where attorneys could be pulling that information. You have a child custody case. Think about how that can be impacted by this. In stalkers, yes, there is all that. But I think at this point, we have to acknowledge that even straightforward, simple questions about things can be used against us. I would point out a couple of things. We still do have these places called libraries. And while it is true under the Patriot Act, they can still evaluate your checkout records. But this is why public with the kind of, I would say, one-way sources of information, where you go into a library and you find a journal or a book that can give you the information that you need. Or sometimes many libraries, I don't know if they still do them, but we had these things called pathfinders, where if you had a legal question or something like that, they would actually you could actually take out a one page and it would tell you exactly what resources in that library could help you answer your question.
That's cool.
The other thing that we used to have is that there were hospitals that had these phone services where they had medical information, the libraries of medical information. You could call in and you say, I want this tape, I want this message on this topic. And you could actually listen on your phone to a tape that would explain this medical condition or things that, that you need to know about. So there were things like that worked one way, that would give you information on demand if you needed it. But you weren't subjected to the level of tracking that is going on right now. Maybe some of those old ways that use some of these legacy technologies might not be a bad idea to go back to. You remember from Pueblo, Colorado, when they used to have the information service where you would get this little catalog in the mail and you could order little booklets on any topic.
Yeah, what was it? The consumer
information service or something like that. Yeah. Pueblo, Colorado, and they would have all and you could get this booklet and you could get information on any topic sent to you, or not any, but many topics sent to you. Again, we might want to consider reviving some of these services at this point, because I'm not so sure that it's all that good for people to be this
I'm
vulnerable.
very, I'm very skeptical of putting like personal information into these chat bots and stuff and letting it spit out information, because, not that I'm a bad guy, but I am a bad guy, but not like that. It's this one of those things. Well, if you got nothing to hide, what do you care? And it's like, well, I care because it's my business.
Yeah.
Just because you ain't doing wrong doesn't mean you want to share it with the world. It's your business. And that's, a lot of people will try to twist that into, oh, look, you got something to hide. It's like, no, this is just natural. Everybody has stuff that they don't want anybody else to know about for their own reasons.
Yeah.
And to have AI go through there and parse that kind of stuff and go through all your business
and then sell it to the highest bidder, who then then the highest bidder can then resell it to anybody else who wants it. And you're talking about something that's very intimate, very private. You may desperately need information or support or whatnot, absolutely, but this is not the best place. Consumer catalog, yes, Pueblo, Colorado, 81009. Yeah,
right, 81009. That's one of those zip codes you don't really forget.
I think you had to send a self-addressed stamped envelope too, as I seem to recall.
Yes, because
remember those? Remember self-addressed stamped envelopes? Yeah.
You put a stamp on an envelope inside another envelope that you send to them, so then whenever they send you back something, they didn't have to pay the freight. So it was, it was like a good little relationship between you and the person back in the days. Now it's just, they don't do that. Yeah. But you know what? What's old is new, right? Nike, just do it.
Oh,
like Nike, right?
Nike,
just do it. You know what they're just doing? They're just moving jobs to low-wage regions of Indonesia. That's what Nike's just doing. Because just do it. Swoosh. Let's go down here. Where's this? Okay.
COD. Yeah, remember that. Yeah.
This is it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Nike says people who make its products should earn enough to live on with some discretionary money left over, or their employers should have a plan to get them there. The supply chain in Indonesia grew in places where the minimum wage falls short of one leading estimate for the living wage, while it shrank in areas that pay better. They said, that's the place for us. Let's go, boys. Nike says that less developed regions where it operates shouldn't be excluded from economic growth. Adding in a statement, growth and progress go hand in hand, but apparently not
foot and
sneakers,
foot.
right?
Yeah.
So if you're among more than the 1 million people who make Nike sneakers and apparel around the world, the company says you should be able to support your family. You should earn enough to pay your living expenses and have some discretionary money left over. If your factory wages don't cut it, your employer should have a plan to get you there. But Nike's expansion in Indonesia over the last decade has directly undermined these goals. An analysis by ProPublica and the Oregon Live found over the last decade, employment at factories supplying the world's largest athletics apparel brand expanded dramatically in regions of Indonesia where, according to one leading estimate, the minimum wage is less than the amount workers need to live on. Shocking, I know. Getting paid less than what you actually need. Yes, that's ain't that America? Oh wait, no, that's yeah. Meanwhile, Nike's supply chain shrank overall in places that pay this estimated living wage. Their analysis found the trend shows the movement of multinational corporations to countries with ever lower labor costs is being replaced in some cases by movements within a country that can achieve major savings and improve the bottom line. Nike suppliers employ 280,000 people in Indonesia, the company's second largest production center, From 2015 through last year, these suppliers shed around 36,000 jobs in places where the monthly minimum wage exceeds or comes close to a living wage. Did anyone give one the ones that comes close to a living wage? It's like, no, too close, gotta go. In these high wage areas, which include the capital of Jakarta, the minimum typically equates to about $300 a month. Yeah. By contrast, the company's supplier workforce grew by nearly 112,000 in parts of Central and West Java, with local minimum wages that are typically about $165 a month, far from what's considered enough to live on. Dozens of workers employed by Nike suppliers in Indonesia told the news organization the minimum is about all they make. Crazy. That's still a thing, of course. And like, but we got tariffs here, Lainey. We got tariffs, and these guys are like, screw it, we're just going to make them overseas. We're just going to keep doing that, you know. What's going on, man?
I keep hearing this excuse. I've heard this excuse more than once. I remember a while back there were a group of knucklehead evangelicals. Some of them I actually kind of liked, but they were knuckleheads who were basically condemning sustainability initiatives because they were prohibiting third world or developing nations, I should say, from achieving economic success because concern about the environment was stifling capitalism, America style, in those countries. I've also, and again, I've heard this before that, I remember when they were offshoring all the data centers, and I'm not back in the day when people were actually entering data. I'm not talking about the AI stuff, but data centers or call centers. They were offshoring them to India and other developing nations. And when people were complaining about this, they said, "Well, don't those other countries have a right to develop their economies?" And it's like, well, okay, we're all about that. But funnily enough, you're paying them a fraction of what you were paying people here in the United States to do this work. And we have a bunch of people in the United States who are now out of jobs.
Yeah.
Funny how that works.
It's funny how that works out like that. Yeah, that's definitely for sure. Like this has been going on for years, right? Pretty much since NAFTA, if not before, shipping jobs overseas for this kind of thing, for all kinds of clothing makers, electronics makers, that sort of thing. And it's, unless you pay well, you're not going to bring that stuff back here. And they're not going to pay well here when they know they're going to pay a fraction of what they could pay Americans here overseas to do that. That's old. That's an old trope as old as the hills, right? So we were talking about last week, the preachers at the Pentagon, right?
Oh yeah. And now it's gotten even worse. I did not believe this story, Uncle Warren.
I didn't either.
Not. I heard it so many times, and then you sent it over, and I'm like, no, I don't believe it. And then I had to face it.
Yeah, so more than one outlet put this out. So here we go. U.S. commanders want to make war with Iran as bloody as possible to bring about biblical end times. Officers report. So this isn't some nut with a tinfoil hat on. This is some guy in the military. In less than a week, the U.S. and Israel's war has rendered unfathomable suffering upon the people of Iran. Over 180 schoolgirls and staffers were killed in a massacre this weekend. Several hospitals have reportedly been struck amid numerous other attacks on civilians. But some U.S. troops are being told the bloodletting is all a part of God's plan. All right, here we go. At a briefing on Monday, as Trumpy unleashed what has been called a carpet bombing of Tehran, a combat unit commander reportedly told non-commissioned officers, NCOs, that the commander-in-chief was, quote, anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to Earth, end quote. That's a mouthful. The complaint sent by one of those non-commissioned officers was just one of at least 110 similar reports received by the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, or MRF, MRFF, MRF, since Trump first launched strikes on Saturday. In compliance with the First Amendment, the Department of Defense has long adopted rules against proselytizing within the armed forces, but under Defense Secretary and former Muppet Pete Hegseth, an evangelical Christian who has said the West must wage a, quote, crusade, quote, against Islam, Christian nationalist invocations in the military have become commonplace. So Mikey Weinstein, that sounds like some kid in a children's book. Hey, Mikey Weinstein's coming over to play stickball. Mikey Weinstein, the president and founder of MRF and an Air Force veteran who served in the White House of former President Ronald Reagan, told independent journalist Jonathan Larson that the group has been inundated with complaints from NCOs since Saturday, which all have one damn thing in freaking common. That's what it says in quotes. Our MRFF clients report the unrestricted euphoria of their commanders and command chains as to how this new biblically sanctioned war is clearly the undeniable sign of the expeditious approach of the fundamentalist Christian end times, as vividly described in the New Testament book of Revelation, Weinstein said. Many of their commanders, he added, are especially delighted with how graphic this battle will be, zeroing in on how bloody all of this must become in order to fulfill and be in 100% accordance with fundamentalist Christian end of the world eschatology. Bless you. According to Larson, who first reported on the MRFF's findings on Monday, the message had been spread far and wide as U.S. troops rained missiles down upon Iran. Larson reported that the complaints came from more than 40 different units spread across at least 30 military installations and have involved commanders in every branch of the U.S. military. Wow. One non-commissioned officer who did not identify himself out of fear of retaliation said his commander, quote, urged us to tell our troops that this was all part of God's divine plan, and he specifically referenced numerous citations out of the book of Revelation, referring to Armageddon and the imminent return of Jesus Christ, end quote. It's a crazy book, though. If you haven't read Revelation, it's wild.
But read Ezekiel if you want real crazy and really perverted Ezekiel. Go.
Ezekiel's got some.
I went to seminary. Trust me.
They got some UFOs and shit up in there too, man.
They got big old donkey parts too.
And critters, yeah. There's like all critters with eyes all over them and shit, man.
Oh yeah, there's some wild stuff, and wait till you find out how he baked his bread.
You know, good or bad, the Bible's crazy as hell. So everybody's got to admit that. So the NCO added that his commander had a big grin on his face when he said all this, which made his message seem even more crazy. Yeah, our commander would probably be described as a Christian first supporter, he said. He's been this way for a very long time and makes it clear that he desires all of us under him to become just like him as a Christian. But what he did this morning was so toxic and over the line that it shocked many of us in attendance at the ops readiness briefing. The NCO identified himself as a Christian, but emailed MRFF on behalf of 15 of his troops, which included at least one Muslim and one Jewish person. He said that their commander's remarks destroy morale and unit cohesion and are in violation of the oaths we swore to support the Constitution. Yeah, this is wild. So, Christians at this and the surface. Christian nationalism has long simmered just under the surface of U.S. military culture and has been invoked by presidents of the past, including George W. Bush, who referred to he referred to his war on terror as a crusade. I remember that. I remember he said crusade, and my ears perked up. I was like, boy, what? A crusade? That's not what you're supposed to say. But Hegseth, who regularly hosts Christian prayer services at the Pentagon, we told you about that last week, rails against secular humanism and the godless left and has hosted the notorious fundamentalist pastor Doug Wilson. You know the one, Dr. Everything Be All Right.
Yeah, remember from last week? The guy
remember-
who officiated at a wedding ceremony between a fixated pedophile and a very young woman?
The very same. He also opposes the right of women to vote and calls for the U.S. to be a Christian theocracy. He had him at the Pentagon. Yeah, so and that's basically that's kind of the gist of the story there. That we always couch things by saying, hey, it's your religion, believe what you want as long as you're not affecting anybody else, right? Well, this may be a thing where it's affecting everybody else. Where it's like, okay, yeah, there are, where they say there are no atheists in foxholes. That's true. But at the same time, when you talking about, when you playing with the thumb nuns and you say 1, 2, 3, 4, I declare a holy war, that ain't like something you just throw around, like, because people go, oh, holy war, did you say? The other 2, 3, 4 billion super religious people around the world just like, okay, so it's like, that's why we have a separation of church and state, or we're supposed to, right? Am I crazy? I'm probably crazy.
Here's what I'm going to say. I think that these yahoos, and I'm beginning to wonder if they haven't lost control of the plot at this point, because here's the problem. A lot of the Christian nationalists out there, and I believe that includes Doug Wilson, are not dispensationalists. They do not believe that Israel is going to triumph. They don't believe that there's going to be a rapture. They believe that Revelation was speaking of conditions back at that time. That this was, it was about Rome, but it was about Rome then. Now they say it's the Roman Catholic Church. It gets very strange. The point is, hear that rumbling.
Yeah, careful what you say, lady.
They're going to come strike me, the old whore of Babylon over here. But seriously, there are a lot of the Christian nationalists, the particularly nasty ones, by the way, who are, if anything, supporting Iran. They hate Israel. They're anti-Semites. They do not they hate the state of Israel because they're anti-Semites. It's not because of any concern for peace and justice. They support Iran to the extent that they believe that we shouldn't be attacking Iran, but their views on women's rights, these Christian nationalists, their views on women's rights make Iran look like an ERA convention. They do not believe, for example, many of the Christian nationalists do not believe women should have the right to vote, to work, to own property, to leave an abusive husband, to decide how many children they have. They are misogynists of the worst order. And so what they're doing here is by using this is biblical Armageddon language, they are pandering to one segment of evangelical and fundamentalist Christianity that is not reflective of the entirety of it. And they could end up pitting these segments against each other with this foreign policy snafu. Again, in a civil war context, that may be something that would be very useful. But if they're really trying to unite Christians, evangelical and fundamentalist Christians, under a masculine Christianity, by getting them to get on board with making things go boom in Iran and in the Middle East, they have really misjudged at this point, and there's going to be some additional blowback for them.
Probably so. This could go any way at this point. I wanted to throw this one in here. This is kind of, the recurring tide, but we have the various primaries going on around the country because we have the midterms coming up this November. One interesting race was down in Texas, where Representative Dan Crenshaw, at least at the moment, is out. you're like, who's Dan Crenshaw? And you're like, oh, it's that dude with the eye patch. I think
Yeah.
didn't he used to own BlackRock or something like that. He had like some sort of military stuff, right? I believe so, or I could be thinking of somebody else. Anyway, he's been boom to boom boom.
I'm gonna mute this up.
Yeah, a bit of a shitty guy. Well, I don't know if this guy's any better, probably not. Steve Toth wins Republican primary, unseating U.S. Representative Dan Crenshaw. Now, there's a possibility, maybe it says so in the article, that he could run as an independent in the, because sometimes that's what they do. So, you're going to go down? Okay. So, State Representative Steve Toth, beat incumbent Crenshaw for the Republican nomination in Texas's 2nd congressional district, coming one step closer to representing the Houston area seat. Toth opened, this is from the Texas Tribune. Yeah, ding. Toth opened a wide lead in the Republican primary on Tuesday as results came in and declared victory hours before the AP called the race in his favor. Congressional District 2 voters want a representative in D.C. who will stand firm in his convictions, fight for his constituents, and follow through on his promises. I won't be one of those people, but I'm pretty sure that they still want these things. I won't let them down. I added that last sentence. Not that I won't let them down. So he said that in a news release. Toth's commanding lead was a reversal of fortunes for Crenshaw. And this is what I was surprised, because Crenshaw was like, he'd been in there for a few minutes. Who had in previous years sailed through the primaries with double-digit leads. The sudden overtaking comes despite Crenshaw having raised $1.3 million more than Toth. There it is. There he beat him by 15 points. I wonder who Crenshaw pissed off.
Well, Crenshaw was also, he'd been kind of independent. I mean, he didn't always fall in line, and so I don't know if he's irritated people with that.
Oh, he was a former Navy SEAL. That's who I was thinking of. I was thinking of somebody else as the BlackRock guy, but that ain't him. Sorry. I don't mean to. I try to get it right. So he's currently in his 4th term. Both of these, but that's the thing. It's like I thought Crenshaw was pretty far right, and I guess he wasn't far right enough.
Yeah, exactly.
So it says Toth is among the Texas Republican Party's most conservative members. Wow, if you're to the right of Crenshaw, that's pretty far right. Who have repeatedly questioned the commitment of leadership and Governor Greg Abbott to the GOP's values. So are they going after Abbott? The Conroe Republican framed the race as a referendum on the future of the Republican Party, an effort that garnered support from several conservative leaders, including, there he is, Ted Cruz, and Turning Point Action. Isn't that Erica Kirk's thing? Or is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, well, the stories, we could talk about that one, girl. You know what I'm saying? We can't do that here today, but maybe on a secret. We should have a secret Undercurrent show and talk about all these.
I would love to, and I would love, that we could have some fun with that. Maybe get our friend Ilan to join us.
Hell yeah. Dish, tea. Let's have that tea. I know, that's what we need, a tea show. So I don't know. It doesn't say here. Okay. So Crenshaw clashed with Republican allies over several issues, including his support for Ukraine aid and the 2020 election results, which he voted to certify. Oh, shouldn't have done that. Crenshaw was the only Texas Republican incumbent in the House who ran without Trump's endorsement. Ooh, Kitty likes to scratch. That's wild, isn't it? Yeah. So I was a little petty adding that, but I was like, I never could stand Dan Crenshaw. I know this next guy is, if he won, he's probably going to be much worse. So
Yeah.
that's the way I look at it these days now. If you win at anything in these elections for national office, you're probably some scallywag ne'er-do-well. What happened?
Yeah.
An angrier Dan Crenshaw. Yeah.
That's exactly it, Willie Bragg. We got to get Willie on the show sometime soon.
I know, right? We got to dive into the press pool now. As Buffalo Public Radio signal to go commercial due to federal cuts. See, that's what they wanted. That's what they wanted. Replacing a $2.2 million structural funding loss indefinitely through donations alone would not be realistic or responsible, is the message from Buffalo Toronto Public Media as the public radio organization converts one of its frequencies to an advertising eligible license. As soon as May, 94.5 FM will stop being BTPM classical and become a commercial station blending local, national, and international news, public affairs, entertainment, sports, and music, supported by both member donations and advertising. The station's new name has not been announced, but the change does create a sizable programming snafu. Ooh, snafus are not good. NPR, of which BTPM is a member, prohibits its content from airing on commercial stations. So BTPM's NPR content, including Morning Edition, All Things Considered, and Wait, Don't Tell Me, will all be moved to 88.7 FM. Classical programming will also shift to the lower frequency. As long as I can still hear Supertramp in the afternoons. Take the long way home. The conversion follows last year's congressional rescissions that led to the closure of the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, and more specifically stripped BTPM of $2.2 million in annual federal funding. Yeah, that's the big one. The organization reports that more than half of its operating budget comes from members. So they said the advertising will roll out gradually with category restrictions and a firewall between editorial and sales operations. One would hope. BTPM plans a virtual town hall and at least one in-person listener event before the switch. So other public radio operators are dealing with the cuts in different ways. Saddleback College handed off its FCC license for Orange County's KSBR to California State University Northridge as a permanent addition for 88.5, the SoCal Sound. Yeah, that KCSN, the SoCal Sound. All the radio sound effects. Who let Godzilla in here? Citing continuity concerns, other operators have been forced into layoffs, including American Public Media Group, Community Radio for Northern Colorado, Vermont Public, and many others. So the federal funding puts us in a difficult position. That's Tom Calderon from Buffalo Toronto Public Media president. But we are using this moment to think creatively, as we always have, about how we serve our community while protecting BTPM's essential services. So we still have details to finalize before the switch launches. However, we know how much our audiences value the stations that they have listened to for decades, and we didn't want to wait to share what's ahead. So Buffalo Toronto Public Media remains a nonprofit organization. Our mission, editorial standards, and public service commitment remain changed. Yeah, we'll see what changes once private money starts rolling in there that aren't donations, right? For what kind of advertisers that they would have.
Yeah, I mean, it's really up in the air right now. I think that, again, one thing people need to consider is that public broadcasting, these grants were oftentimes helping out stations that were the only dedicated, had that really serious dedicated news reporting. for many communities. I happen to live in one of those communities, and we do have an excellent public station, but they are absolutely in flux. And if you remember last week, I was talking about how the head of the FCC, who's a Republican, has been calling for stations to be promoting patriotic content, as we are in the supposed to be celebrating the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Whether we actually make it there or not, I'm not entirely sure at this point. But he was telling people, to play, great American composers. And so certainly last night I was cooking, doing my meal prep. I made 52 meatballs, by the way. And there it is. And I'm cooking and listening to the classical program on KUFF, which is, you can't find classical programming on many commercial stations. So I'm listening to the public station, listening to classical program, and sure enough, they had a piece by John Philip Sousa. Which was fine. It was a nice piece, but I'm wondering, okay, was this chosen by the producer and the host, or was this okay? I guess from here on out this year, we have to appease this administration by playing the music that they want us to play. And it was a great piece. It belonged. It was certainly fine for the composition of the show. But if this is the way it's going to be, it was really unsettling.
It's pretty surreal. It's pretty surreal too, to be like, because we've seen this kind of stuff in dystopian books and movies growing up. So it's like, oh, okay, now this shit's for real. We're gonna be, we're gonna get some patriotic music because there's nothing that's gonna fire up Gen Z more than John Philip Sousa. Unless you put it to like a house beat or something like that, which might work. I'm not a music prude, but speaking of schools, the U.S. Department of Education doing some fun stuff. Let's go clown fishing.
Yeah.
U.S. Department of Education hangs Charlie Kirk banner outside of DC building. Now, I know people are like, well, Charlie Kirk in the end, he said some good that had nothing to do with that stuff. It's just putting like Charlie Kirk up here. This is some ridiculous stuff. The U.S. Department of Education has hung large banners outside its building in D.C., including one featuring an image of the late far-right commentator Charlie Kirk. Kirk, who was shot and killed last September while speaking at a campus event at Utah Valley University, co-founded the conservative nonprofit organization Turning Point USA, which advocates for and promotes conservative politics among young people, particularly on college campuses. Photos show that Kirk's image has been displayed on the Department of Education building alongside banners honoring Catherine Beecher, a prominent 19th century U.S. educator and advocate for women's education, and Booker T. Washington, an influential educator and writer who championed educational opportunities for Black Americans in post-Civil War America and became the first principal of Tuskegee Normal and Industrial School in Alabama, now Tuskegee University. Maybe they wanted to play the biggest game of guess which one is not like the other ones when they put those banners up. A banner next to the three figures reads, "Empowering our states to tell the stories of our heroes in American education." Was Charlie Kirk a teacher? Was he an educator? I don't know.
No.
I don't think he was.
He was a radio host.
Yeah. He taught radio. No, he just talked on the radio, right? And in the interwebs. The Department of Education said in a statement, "We are proud to honor visionary leaders whose contributions have shaped the future of education for generations." Something tells me that's they're trying to suck up to a certain part of the base there. Their work reflects Benjamin Franklin's timeless belief that an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Unless you're a hedge fund manager, then you're like, fuck that, we got something else. She said, adding, as our country marks a historic 250th milestone, this moment invites all of us to join in that pursuit of fostering educational opportunity that empowers every learner to rise, contribute, and help shape a brighter future for generations to come. So the banner featuring Kirk has sparked criticism, as a commentator was a polarizing figure who had made incendiary and often racist and sexist comments during his career. Some users online also noted that Kirk had also called for abolishing the Department of Education as recently as last year. They're like, no, we put up a banner. He can't do that. Despite once calling the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 a mistake, describing abortion as worse than the Holocaust, and arguing that, quote, it's worth it to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights, unquote. Very poor timing of that quote. Trump and his allies have praised Kirk as a great American hero and a martyr for freedom. In October, Trump posthumously awarded Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian award. The new banners followed the unveiling last month of the Department of Justice headquarters with a large banner of Trump's face eating an onion, saying, what are you going to do about it, Shorty? No, I added that last part about the onion, the Shorty. But it could be true. Fake news. It's fake news. That's fake news.
I did want to bring something up here. And I think that in this case, the choice of the three people is telling. Charlie Kirk, he had a group called Turning Point USA, and he would go to college campuses to debate the students. And if you've seen them, look, I mean, he was a master entertainer in many ways. He was a master of his craft, and he knew how to push people's buttons and get that going. So, I would not call him an educator. I'm all about bringing different perspectives. And some of those perspectives can be libertarian, conservative, whatever. I think it's absolutely important. Iron sharpens iron, as they say, to bring different perspectives. But I don't know that he had the most constructive way of doing it. But we want to look at the other two people who are up there as well. Booker T. Washington, who I think was an absolutely amazing man, has been historically a polarizing figure in Black history here in the United States, including the struggle for liberation. And because he did have some views on segregation, and he was more willing to accommodate that. He thought that segregation offered some protection to the Black communities at that point, whereas many of his contemporaries felt very differently about that. So he was and has been a controversial figure for that. Catherine Beecher, another woman from the Beecher family, a family of activists. Yes, she did found girls' schools. She did found where women and girls could get, young ladies and girls could get an education, a real education in the liberal arts. But she was not an abolitionist, and she opposed women's suffrage. She believed that you educated women so they could be at home and influence their husbands and their children and run their households. And that's how women were to express their political ideas and agency. So I think it was very telling that these were the three figures that were put up there, given the tone of this administration.
Yeah, it's still like to see those three up there together. It's like, okay, who lost a bet? That's what you're like. What?
Yeah.
Why is he there? But yeah, I mean,
Catherine Beecher, she did some great stuff, and Booker T. Washington, I think, again, an amazing, provocative thinker, and what he did was incredible. But they also come with their own histories and roles in history, and I find it's not a coincidence that those are the folks who were picked.
Well, finally, this afternoon. Is it afternoon? It is afternoon.
It is.
They could make so many things so tiny now.
Yeah.
Right. They have these spaceships that can go in your body and these people wear these white jumpsuits while they're in your body checking it out, and they're getting attacked by white blood cells because white blood cells are badass. They're like, get out of here, super tiny spaceship. You know that movie? Was it Fantastic Journey? Was it Fantastic Voyage? I think. You remember that movie with Raquel Welch, and they were inside somebody's
there
body?
was
Donald
also
Pleasance.
there was also one with Dennis Quaid.
Yeah, that was Inner Space. Yeah, with
yeah,
Martin Short. Yeah,
yeah.
that same concept. Getting tiny, right? Well, now, Laney P, guess what? World's the smallest arcade machine is only 0.98 inches tall. So it's about an inch tall. Look at it. So there's a AA battery. And look at that teeny. Look at
that tiny machine.
It's a baby. I want to cuddle it.
Please don't.
It's so tiny. I'd probably end up swallowing it because it's so tiny. A 24-year-old electronics enthusiast in India has constructed the world's smallest arcade machine, a 0.98 inches tall device that runs Space Invaders. So you can play Space Invaders on this thing. Kiran Patel said he has been fascinated by electronics since he was a child, and over the years, his interest has led him to experiment with multiple microelectronics projects. He said, I've built many electronic projects before involving microcontrollers and displays, but this is the first gaming arcade project that I have attempted, Patel told Guinness World Records. Patel's arcade machine measures 0.98 inches tall, 0.6 inches long, and 0.59 inches wide. It features 4 buttons and can run an emulated version of classic arcade game Space Invaders. He said the idea first came to him during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm sure there was a lot of weird shit that was invented during the pandemic when people all stuffed up in their places like, I'm gonna make invisible butter, or some ridiculous craziness like that. This guy made teeny tiny Space Invaders. I built an initial prototype during that time, but it was fairly rudimentary, and I also needed to further develop the software side of the project. University and work commitments paused the progress for a while, but in the summer of 2025, I decided to revive the idea and take it forward, he said. Guinness World Records confirmed the result of Patel's efforts is officially the world's smallest arcade machine. Patel previously earned a Guinness World Records title in April 2019 when he built the world's smallest working grill, measuring 0.24 inches tall, 0.27 inches long, and 0.18 inches wide. And that's when he made those mini burgers. Like, what do they call those things? It's like they give you like the you brown and bun, and then they put meat in between. What's it? Sliders? It's like
Sliders, yeah.
These are like teeny tiny sliders, though. Just like you're eating meaty Skittles. Meaty Skittles. Taste the rainbow in so many ways. Wait, what?
Uncle
Warren. Not gonna touch that. Okay. Oh, did you tell everybody how your presentation went last week?
Oh, it was very interesting. There were some technical glitches and that sort of thing, but it was really interesting. I had to revise a presentation that I had given 3 years ago. It was given to a Chicago audience, and I was giving it to folks in the UK. So I had to completely revise it because I was making references, cultural references, and things to talking about local TV stations. I had to explain geography. So it was an interesting writing experience for me. Maybe I'll revise it again. Maybe we'll do it as a special on the Undercurrent if folks want to chime in, and I can actually do visual. I was not able to do visuals given the situation that we had, but we could do some visuals, and we could have, that might be a really fun show to do on a weekend, Uncle Warren. I'm thinking.
Yes.
Max Headroom incident. It's fascinating. It's fascinating, and I've developed my own ideas about it. Not that I'm an expert, but nothing stops me from letting my brain run wild and free, and it does that sometimes.
It's an important memory in local media history for sure. shocked a lot of people. So
It did.
yeah, we could totally do that.
Yeah, we'll plan that.
Other than that, I guess I'll be back Friday morning for Morning Extra. We'll have updates on the Iran war and other stuff that you got to, whenever a war starts, usually that also means that they're doing some fuckery behind your back. So you gotta look at these peripheral stories too and see what else is going on, because it's like there's always distractions. They're always distracting you. So we'll do that. We'll do that Friday morning, and then Friday night is Secret Show around 11 p.m. Eastern on the usual subjects. So that's it.
We want to thank everybody for joining us today. I think it was a great show. It was great having Pastor Morris on the show with us to talk about what her church is doing. It's important. We talk about housing and affordable housing a lot on this show, and to find a community that's doing something about it was really great to hear.
I enjoyed talking with her, and she seemed very excited about the project too, and the fact that the fact that she didn't commit to one particular style or one particular idea yet. I think that was great too, that she's excited about pondering all these different ideas, because if you can't use that idea where they're doing their thing, that doesn't mean another church can't use that idea at their place. So it's good that they're getting with those other churches together and doing that too. And we need more of that kind of stuff in a lot of these communities, not just where they're at in Arkansas, but across the South too. Because we're seeing that in Mississippi and Alabama, the housing prices going up too, and it's crazy. So we all got to help each other, right?
Absolutely. Also want to thank everybody again for being here. We really appreciate your support, your comments, everything. One thing, I just put our link tree back in there. If you could subscribe to our channel on YouTube, that would be fantastic, and hit that ring bell button so that you get notifications. Subscribe to our Substack. You will get all of our show notes sent over to you. And also, if you could sign up and follow our social media right now. We can't stream to our social media platforms until we get a certain number of people who are following. So if you could do that for us, that would be just absolutely wonderful. And again, we really appreciate your support.
And if you're not a fan of these other platforms, we are now streaming on our Substack.
That's right.
It's Undercurrent, TheUndercurrent, 4, the number 4 and the letter U, right?
So
go
in. I'm gonna send over the link right now, so people can actually see what we're doing. And the Substack is really kind of nifty as far as I'm concerned.
We're putting it to good use. That's for sure.
I was trying to actually go to the link tree, and you'll find the link over to the Substack. I can't go in there right now because we're streaming there and the audio's coming up.
Hang on a second. I should be able to do this. Let me try this. Let me try. But yeah, we're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and we've had the show afterwards on Substack. But now, if you want to watch it live, you can definitely do that. Let me put this in the thing. That's our this is us right here. So yeah, because I see a lot of people that I know that are on Substack too. They do the notes or whatever thing on there too. And I think it's always good to have as many outlets as you can for these particular types of shows, especially when you might be getting shadow banned on one. It's nice if the others can pick up the slack like that. So
I will say, it does seem to me that YouTube is more open to news programs than they were 5 years ago. 5 years ago, YouTube, they wanted travel, and they wanted crafts and makeup tutorials. But if you were doing news and you were not a major news organization, forget about it. Now they seem a lot more open to it.
Yeah, that's true. I've kind of picked up, I've gotten a little more traction now in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I've gotten 12 subscribers on my show, and that I attribute that to the shorts. I think the shorts.
Yeah, the shorts are really helping.
they seem like they're hit or miss. Some people, they'll watch one, you'll get like 1,000 views on, and then you watch one, then the one of them, there'll be like 5 or 6, and you're okay, but that's all you have to do. That's why I put out so many. I usually put out like, let's see, 2, 4, 5, 6, usually about 10. I think between like I usually start on Saturdays putting the clips out and run them up till like a couple hours before the show. So, but I'm just sitting there gabbing and yabbing. So we're trying to do more things, trying to get more information out to as many platforms as you guys consume. And if you're new, if you could like, share, and subscribe, we'd appreciate that as well. Lainey, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I want to thank everybody. I want everybody to be safe. I know these are crazy, uncertain times. Find your pockets of joy and stability, and dig deep into them.
Yeah, we're all in this together, y'all. So don't despair. We'll figure something out. So that's what we always do, right? Thanks everybody watching.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah, if you're watching in the future, thank you for supporting us as well. We'll see you next week, same bat time, same bat channel at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, Facebook, and now Substack, since it's behaving itself. For now, we'll see. Bye everybody. Peace.
Thank you.